Oh, hello everybody and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I, of course, am Mr. Warren Hayes. Thank you all for joining me today to this podcast where we talk about professional wrestling. That's right here for a couple of hours. And we're doing it on either on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes or on your favorite podcast application. It doesn't matter where you're picking this up. You're all getting the same content. And thank you very much for being here. I would appreciate a like on this video if you're listening right now on YouTube, or a 5-star review on Apple Podcast, or a 5-star rating on Spotify. It's the first time I do this bit, so bear with me. If you could show a little love on that front, that would be tremendous. I also want to let you know that on the YouTube channel, I have started a new series called the Review Grab Bag. I review a few matches from promotions that sometimes I dive into, but I don't necessarily follow very, very closely, and are not part of big show reviews that I typically do. So, I've been wanting to talk more pro wrestling. I've been wanting to break more wrestling down, and that's what I've started to do with these reviews. So I did a first grab bag that's available on YouTube. I've got a second one that's already available for members of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel, and soon to be available for everyone else as well. And it's good. Look, if you're looking for content, if you're looking for someone to just talk about the wrestling, crack open a match and talk about it and break it down, I'm your guy. That's what they're for. We're not talking about overcomplicated angles and the future of the business or business, the wrestling business itself, like attendance and ratings and all that. We're focused on the matches, and it's a good time. I highly suggest you check it out. But later, because right now you've chimed into the podcast, and that's what we're going to be doing here. Look, it's been a couple of days full of drama. There's some great stuff to talk about, the kind of chaos that I really like. We're going to talk about Nixon Newell and Miranda Alize. We're going to be talking about Tony Khan's national title that he's inaugurated for AEW, and of course, the Hiroshi Tanahashi, Kazuchika Okada stuff. Look, there's so much to get into. Settle in, kick back, and enjoy yourselves. Thank you very much for being here. A couple of days ago, on November 8th, 2025, there was a report that was released by Mike Johnson over at PW Insider that took the wrestling world by surprise. I'm going to read it verbatim here. Last second AEW Collision change after job refusal. There was a change to tonight's AEW Collision tonight. Okay, so it was tonight on the 8th. After Nixon Newell and Miranda Alize refused to lose in their second appearance for the promotion, PWInsider.com has learned. The duo were scheduled to put over Tay Mello and Anna Jay, but balked at the booking because they had already lost in their official debut last week. The duo left the taping about an hour before bell time and were replaced by Hyan and Maya World. PW Insider is told that AEW was appreciative of World and Hyan stepping up and that each gained points internally. Alize took to Twitter commenting, quote, "They have so much to say." We're talking a "so" with 4 O's. Okay, so that's a lot. That I just a parentheses here. Okay, just a quick little parentheses before I continue reading Mike Johnson's report here verbatim. We've got not 2, not 3, but 4 O's to the so. That is a lot of stuff. That is a shitload of much to say. It's not just like a couple of things no, you feel like there is a lot to say. All right. They have so much to say. She, Alize, also retweeted fan comments about the team needing credible wins. Newell, as of this article, of course, has not commented herself, but retweeted Alize's comment as well as the same fan tweets. Oh boy. Newell, formerly Tegan Knox, was released by WWE on November 1st, 2024, and this past summer noted was dealing with a lack of bookings, describing it as, quote unquote, like a nightmare during an interview. Newell and Alize, who was a regular in Ring of Honor when it was owned by Sinclair Broadcast Group, made their debuts on October 25. Neither were believed to be under AEW contract as at this juncture. So this was surprising. Everyone was like, wow, what in the world happened in this situation? What it's like, what exactly happened? So we have this report, and so they were booked to lose to Ty Mello and Anna Jay. And at that moment, it was reported that they refused to lose, right? And they left an hour before they refused and hit the bricks an hour before bell time. Bell time in this circumstance, meaning 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, because it's a live fucking show, right? Fightful followed up with a couple of reports saying a few things, that they had showed up at Dynamite earlier, like last week, right? They had showed up at Dynamite and they were told, oh, we got nothing for you tonight, which is something, this is something that happens frequently in the pro wrestling business, where people will just show up to work and will wait for something to happen, and they might just show up for nothing. And there are probably more wrestlers on the AEW roster and even the WWE roster who are in that position than you maybe even realize. This is not uncommon. Like, because I've seen people point this out. So how could they bring them in if they didn't have anything for them? That's pretty much it. Like, you have to come in, and there might be something open for you, and whatever, like whatever you need to do. You can talk around, you can with your pals, you can politic, you can spread some ideas, or you can just hang around in catering and wait for someone to come tell you, hey, we've got something for you tonight. But they were there at Dynamite, were sent home, then came back for Collision, and then they were told that they'd have a 3-minute match. And it is the 3-minute match. Oh, no, it was a 2-minute match, excuse me. And it was the 2-minute match that was the issue for them. It's not that they refused to do the JOB. They were told, again, this is all according to Fightful, they were told that they were going to have a 2-minute match, and Newell and Alize essentially said, that's not going to work for us, brother. Here are some other ideas that we may have, such as having a longer match. How about 3 minutes instead of 2? That's essentially what Fightful had reported. That's what they brought to the table. A little later on in the evening, on November 9th, the next day, Newell and Alize hit the old live stream and essentially confirmed everything that Sean Ross Sapp at Fightful had brought forward. They basically corroborated his entire report. For people who had so much to say, there wasn't much to add. Sean was watching the live stream and provided these notes. Nixon Newell and Miranda Alize on their Twitch stream confirmed Fightful's report that they were at AEW Dynamite on Wednesday, but there was nothing for them on the show. They came in on Saturday for Collision and were given a match and said they presented ideas and they were informed of the short match. They decided that after the promo they did, that wouldn't benefit anyone. They said they told AEW that they appreciated it and that there wasn't any negativity or a harsh walkout, and spoke to everyone involved and said that they were told they were free to leave if they wanted. They also claimed that many people claimed that many people there were in agreement that 3 minutes was too short for them. No negativity, essentially, is essentially what was said here. And I'm going to try and pull up the exact quote here. Let me pull it out here. Okay, so this is what Nixon Newell says, like verbatim. This is verbatim from her stream here. She says, "We turn up with a bunch of ideas and we're ready. They walk away, come back, and they say," this is the AEW staff that she's talking about, the they here. And they come back and then they say, "By the way, it's 3 minutes," talking about the match. "Nobody is going to be happy with 3 minutes. We weren't there going, what the fuck, 3 minutes, what the fuck? It was never that. It was, oh, we were told we were going to have a match of substance because the match didn't happen. We just asked, is it 3 minutes? Yup. Okay. After the promo we cut, we were supposed to make ourselves a credible tag team, so that's what we did. We decided collectively as a partnership, as a couple, as a tag, as wrestlers independently, that 3 minutes is going to benefit no one in this match. It won't make anyone look good. What we want to do as wrestlers is make us all look good. We said we really appreciated, we were polite, we were respectful. We called our producer over and said, I don't think 3 minutes is going to benefit either of us, not just us, but anyone in the tag team. We want what's best for everyone. Respectfully, we deserve to go. We deserve this to go to someone it can benefit. So that's the whole thing here. That's essentially the situation here so far. That's the crux of the story. You can spin this whichever way you want, okay? And we can talk about how there was no negativity and whatnot, but the fact remains, the simple fact remains, is that these two wrestlers decided last minute, an hour before the beginning of a live nationwide television broadcast, that they were not going to do what they had been offered, what they had been slotted to do. That's what ultimately they did. They came in, they got the creative, and they're like, they got the match time, and they're like, nope, sorry, this doesn't work for us. Well, you're free to go. That's something that they also said. We were told we were free to go. And they left. I'm going to tell you one thing. Despite all this talk about having so much to say, that was very underwhelming. That was extremely underwhelming as far as having so much to say. We've got the figure 4 online here just for some extra context. They were told that there were no problems and were free to go home, with Newell specifically saying that they were given the okay to go home. Newell said repeatedly throughout the stream there was no bad blood on either side. Additionally, Newell was negative on dirt sheet coverage of the situation and said she legit woke up to death threats on Sunday morning. Now listen, okay, we might be gearing up to be a little critical of these two ladies here, but this is what I mean when I say we're only dealing with adults here tonight in this room. No children allowed here, right? Because this is child behavior. Why would you send death threats to women who just decided to walk out of their job? It is extremely stupid, and like, you are not the cool party here. There's no one who's going to pat you on the back and say, good job, buddy, for sending a death threat to two women who just decided to walk out of their job. Great going, pal. And that is legitimate insane behavior. But let's go back a little bit here. Just want to go back a little bit here. No bad blood on either side. Let me tell you, I have read reports and listened to stuff from Sean Ross Sapp, from Mike Johnson, from Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez. And every one of these reports have contained some form of bad blood, of people being upset at them. And why wouldn't they be? Why wouldn't they be upset? They have every reason to be. Look, just like they have every right to walk out of the building because they're not under contract. They are brought in from the outside to wrestle on this show and maybe try to build something. But these women, these wrestlers, they can do whatever the fuck they want. If they want to walk out, they can walk out, right? They're not under contract, or at least they're very likely not under contract, right? I would assume that they are not under contract. They come in as guests, freelancers and whatnot. If they decide to walk out, what is AEW going to do? Chain them up? Send the cops after them? Make sure, get security to lock them into a locker room? No, of course not. So of course they're going to be told, well, you're free to go. If you're not going to cooperate, there's no point in you staying. You're free to go, right? So they walk out, and of course there's going to be bad blood. Folks, I hope everyone is reasonable enough here, and I think you are, because y'all are the A+ audience to this D-list podcast. I'm sure everyone realizes that just because you're free to go from your job doesn't mean your employer is going to be excited about it. Doesn't mean your employer is going to be happy about it. Good for him for walking away, mid-Tuesday afternoon. That's just great. Just dropping all the projects and whatever he was working on. That's just fantastic. There will be consequences. How did they not think there would be consequences? I think they probably figured it out. I think they're just, painting a softer picture on Twitch in regards to what happened. Or maybe it's just like, yeah, you're free to go. I mean, you can go. We can't hold you here. You're not under contract with us. But there's I refuse to believe that everyone was super chill with it. It's like, yeah, it's fine. Hey, we'll see you next week or whatever the fuck. No, because they are 1 hour from hitting the live button on a nationwide cable broadcast. They're an hour removed from that. And the production has to scramble to find 2 people to come in and replace them. There is no way that they were like, that there was no way that production was super chill with it. No fucking way. And by the way, props to Hyan and Maya World, right? Who are both like, I don't know, they're sitting at home. Maybe they're not booked. They're not booked on a Saturday, which is weird, but it is what it is. And they're sitting around, maybe they're having a nice dinner, they're just hanging around with friends or whatever the fuck. And then they get the text, hey, you got to come right now. Like, and then they just grab it, and they grab their gear, they call an Uber, they're changing into their gear in the car, whatever the fuck, Good for them. And good for them if they scored points. Because I'll tell you one thing. This might be a little parentheses. Hyan is terrific. Hyan has been terrific. This run that she had in Deadlock Pro, and we'll maybe get around to talking about Deadlock Pro later on. This run that she had in Deadlock Pro was absolutely phenomenal. And I personally, I still don't know why this woman has not been, wasn't signed by AEW a while back, because she is extremely good at what she does. She is terribly, terribly good at what she does. And Maya World, hell of a prospect. I would sink my claws into someone like Maya World and make sure she became AEW adjacent very quickly if I were an AEW person, talent scout, Tony Khan, whatever. I'd make sure that that she stayed around, because both of these people have much more upside to Nixon Newell and Miranda Alize. And this is even outside of what happened. Okay. And whatever, because you might be getting the impression, oh, now Warren, you're just saying things to bury them. No, listen to me. Miranda Alize is a very okay pro wrestler, like okay, right? And Nixon Newell, well, I mean, look, what do we have to break down about Nixon Newell that we don't already know, right? Her knees are completely blown out. She's destroyed. She's even said it herself. I've got like 2 years left to wrestle. We got about 2 years left to wrestle, and I've got that done. So herself, she's like, physically, I can't do this for long anymore. So what do? Do you go with Hyan, who has been up and down the indies for years? She is a solid veteran, someone who knows how to work, who's worked just about everywhere on top of that, and sink your teeth into Maya World, who has tremendous buzz, who apparently is a consummate professional on top of that, and Green, she's still new, she's fresh off the boat, but she's tremendous nonetheless. As a prospect, there's so much you can do with her still. That was my little parentheses there on Hyan and Maya World. Why am I hesitating here? Fred Moreland, nice to see you and welcome to the chat. Gedo is booking World and Hyan for the rest of their natural lives. Let's hope not. So this is essentially where in the story. If we recap really quickly, this is where we're at. They leave. It gets reported. Fightful tweaks a few and adds in a few elements that weren't in the original Mike Johnson report. And they basically go online to tell all, and all that they say essentially is corroborate what Sean Ross Sapp had already reported. And on top of that, are saying there's no bad blood, when like that just doesn't make any sense. Because like I said, I have read and listened to every major, news guy out there who speaks to people in AEW, and they all got angered responses. There was even the AEW locker room. Members of the AEW locker room were tweeting out and burying what they did. Even Layla Gray goes out there and says something to the effect that that there are many people backstage who would kill for 3 minutes of television. And I bet she's talking about herself. That would be my guess. The Outrunners made a catering joke. Taya Valkyrie made an excellent point on top of that. So here's the reality check, folks. Here's the real deal reality check. Neither of these women, these wrestlers, are under AEW contract. I said it. They're guests. They're indies, they're independent wrestlers, they're freelancers, and they are brought in from the outside to take part in this show and try to build something here. That's the idea. That's why you bring in people from the outside. It's to try them out on TV, give people some opportunities. Fresh blood is important in pro wrestling. This is all just very normal. Their first match that they had last week, right? Their first match when they were facing, I think it was Megan Bain and Marina Shafir. They got so much goodwill with that debut, with the little show of affection in the ring, with a commentary putting over that they're a real life couple tag team, and doing it really low key, not like going, well, they are the first same-sex couple in the history of AEW. No, they just, very normal, just like, like brothers, like tag brothers in a tag team. It's like, oh yeah, the Jacksons, they're brothers, the Young Bucks, they're brothers. The Beverly Brothers, they're brothers. The Beverly Brothers were not brothers. But you know what I mean? Like, they didn't make a big deal out of it. And then it was picked up, like I think Outsports picked it up too. They had all sorts of goodwill, and AEW fans got behind that. And because AEW fans will support in that fashion. They will genuinely back this type of situation. Now, it's very natural for that fan base to do so, and they got excited about it. So all they had was goodwill, and they all decided to flush it away. And taint whatever they're doing because they refused to do a squash match that benefited no one. Hang on, we'll get to that in a second. Don't worry. So to me, the old promoter trick of making new talent lose early on in a run for an ego check, right, still works in 2025. It's the oldest trick in the book. You bring someone in, they're new, they're excited, but you got to see if they're going to play ball. You got to see if this new person you're bringing in is going to stick to your plans or is going to try to go into business for themselves or if they're going to be a problem backstage. So you have them job out. You have them job out a few times. And then when they conduct themselves professionally, they understand what their role is. They understand what's going on. Well, then you're like, okay, now you can start getting some wins. And you'd think that in 2025, maybe we wouldn't have to do that, but we still do. Look, if anything, it's extremely reassuring that pro wrestling is still what it is, where low-level talent can come in and feel like they can throw their weight around, and then the booker has to go, no, this is not going to work this way. Essentially, this was a test. This was a test of professionalism and attitude, and they failed in both. If you're brand new in the locker room, you do the job. You build trust between yourself and the man in charge, the guy with the pencil, and your locker room itself. And then other people, get to know you. They see what you're ready to do, what you're capable of doing. I didn't hate it. When I thought about this. But they didn't think that losing this match would benefit anyone. They didn't think it would benefit anyone. Hey, you know what? I'll tell you who this 3-minute match would have benefited, and that is TJ. TJ would have absolutely benefited from a nice little enhancement match, especially since they are a tag team that is in the midst of a tournament angle, and they are having a match coming up next. So you do want them to get a significant win. You want them to get a decisive, clear win so they can go in with a little momentum, with a win under their belt, and no, they didn't have to go. They didn't have to go 10 minutes with a tag team that is not only unproven, but has just arrived in the AEW canon. And it's not as if they're carrying this great, grandiose backlog of matches that instantly gives them like this aura or this presentation. They have nothing. Miranda Alize's got nothing. Nixon Newell's got nothing. They're not coming in. It's not like bringing in Mercedes Moné, where you don't do that with Mercedes Moné because you're bringing her in with all of her baggage, everything that she has to bring to a pro wrestling environment. So you don't have her job out. You don't have her lose to other people. That's a whole different story. But these two coming out of nowhere, plus they're not signed. TJ, an established tag team in this company, women's tag team, before there were women tag teams. They've been a thing for a while. So yes, I would absolutely expect this tag team to make short work of the new blood coming in specifically for this one match. Absolutely 100%. So yes, actually, this all made sense because this tag team that is going into a tournament to crown the first women's tag team champions should not be having 10-minute matches with a team coming out of nowhere who the viewing audience barely even knows about. That would have been a little more on the side of booking malpractice. Give Anna Jay and Ty Mello the big win. A quick enhancement win. Make them look good for 3 minutes and then go home. And it's really funny that Nixon Newell, someone who wrestled under Vince McMahon in the era of the 3-minute women's match, would have an issue and would start barking about it. Very interesting. They also said it wouldn't be good for their brand. What is their brand? What is their brand? What is their brand? That's exactly what I was talking about just right now. They said, they come in with nothing. This is what their brand is. Nixon Newell is injured. That's her brand. And Alize is no one that the national wrestling TV viewing audience would know, because the last time she was involved in any kind of structured promotion, Sinclair still owned Ring of Honor. So that's the brand. We don't know who you are. It'll hurt our brand. What brand? They have a new brand now. We're difficult to book. That's the new brand they have. And they did this. This is what is absolutely fucking mind-boggling. This is the thing that I cannot wrap my head around. This all comes after Nixon Newell going on an interview talking about over the summer, right? Talking about not getting booked, how she doesn't understand how she's not getting booked, making mentions of it on social media. It's like, I don't understand, I'm not getting booked. And now not only did she get booked, but she got her girlfriend booked. And not only did she get her girlfriend booked as well, they were booked in the #2 promotion in the United States that has a national TV deal that could pay you a substantial living wage to do what you love to do. You got the booking. You got the booking. Not a booking, the booking. And you still managed to just completely throw that away. It's mind-boggling to me. Do you try to think, chat, for a second, the amount of independent wrestlers out there who would have sold their grandmothers to get the opportunity that they had twice in a row, not on dark elevation, on the main, on primetime television. Get out there and have some TV time. Meanwhile, in the back, you've got the Layla Grays, you've got the Nyla Roses, you got the Yuka Sakazakis who can't even muster 30 seconds on TV, much less 3 minutes. And this is what you decide to do. It's insane. True to form. Wrestler brain. Performance center brain. It's crazy. Walking out an hour before the show starts. Refusing to do it. Having people scramble to find a replacement. You might think there's no bad blood. Look, might have just been saying that for the stream. To sort of soften all the blows, but all signs point to there being top-notch bad blood. And I saw the absolute wildest shit, of course, because social media is like that. Comparing this situation to when Sasha Banks and Naomi walked out of WWE, right? And the comparison is absolutely ridiculous. The comparison is 100% ridiculous. It's not even close to being the same situation. Look, I feel like the comparison are so far apart in regards to star power, employment, creative, and what happened on Collision this week. The comparison is I don't have to break it down Because I think anyone with a reasonable mind understands that it is a bad faith comparison. 100% bad faith. This in this circumstance is not standing up for yourself. This is self-sabotage. Despite what Alize said in her statement that she posted on Instagram. The moment you start standing up for yourself, everything shifts. Suddenly you're the problem. Not because you've changed, but because you're no longer letting them take advantage of you. They'll paint you as the villain, but that's okay because you're finally choosing yourself. This is where your freedom begins. You've got all the freedom to go work anywhere else now. True, this is very true. You got the freedom to not work at AEW anymore, to not get a call back. And this is not even a question of standing up for themselves. They were brought in from the outside as a test to see, are we going to stand, is there something here? These were essentially fucking tryouts. And it's like, okay, no, we're good. That's fine. We don't want no 3-minute match. It hurts our brand. Hurts our brand. Anyway, the wrap up here, the thing here that happens is that essentially Newell and Alize have branded themselves as being hard to work with now. Now that's just how it's going to go for them moving forward. And it's, even if it didn't leak out into the media, this is the kind of thing. Wrestling is a very small universe. It's not a big industry, and everyone talks. This would have been, even if it didn't leak to PW Insider, this is still something that would have ended up harming them. It would have just kept them from getting bookings. Just as simple as that. And it's crazy. It's absolutely fucking insane that not that long ago, they were online saying, we can't get booked. We need bookings. Do people realize that we're available? I saw someone say, ooh, this is not a good look. That's putting it mildly. That's putting it fucking mildly. Not a good look. Like, they essentially took a shotgun to the face in this circumstance. They had so much to say, and it all turned out just being corroborating what the reports were saying. And wrestling is wrestling. You've got stuff to prove. Now, yes, I also saw another argument where someone was like, well, CM Punk can turn stuff down and Mercedes Moné can turn stuff down. Why not them? Well, that's the point. That is absolutely the point. And yes, look, the stark reality about pro wrestling, and honestly, just about everything anywhere, is if you are the top dog, if you are the top person, you are a star, you will get preferential treatment. That's just how it goes. And I'm sure you've seen people in your work environment get special treatment because, whatever reason. But I'm sure you've seen that happen. I'm sure you've seen examples of that happening in pop culture. Anyway, movies, music, and whatnot. I'm sure. But the thing is that this type of behavior. This type of behavior happens when you are or is tolerated or put up with when you are an actual star, when you are bringing something to the table and not just two people trying to rebuild their careers from nothing. This would have been an entirely different situation if it were two bigger stars. Absolutely in agreement. 100% in agreement. But they're not. And they're not signed. And they were brought in to use this opportunity. They were brought in to take this opportunity to try to continue to build something for themselves. Whenever you get a chance, I urge you to to go give a listen to a clip between Brian Alvarez and Filthy Tom Lawler, which they recorded earlier today, and the clip is on their YouTube channel. Don't do it now. I'm streaming. Do it later. But I urge you to do it nonetheless, because Tom basically makes the comparison with what happened to these two wrestlers with what happened to him when he was supposed to work. I forget which show exactly it was, which AEW pay-per-view it was, where he was supposed to fight Adam Cole. And then Adam Cole got sick. And then AEW was like, well, we'll give you a match anyway. And it's going to be against Serpentico. And it's going to be a 5-minute match instead of whatever he had planned with Adam Cole. And he said, okay, that's fine. And he wrestles with some Serpentico. And before they get to the ring, they say, we're cutting your time to 3 minutes. And he said, look, me and Serpentico went out there and we did the dark match, which wasn't even on the pre-show. It was a dark match. So no one saw the match. And that was 3 minutes. So we did our 3-minute match and hightailed. And then he also said, and what happened after that? I got re-invited. They brought me back to do some Ring of Honor shots. He fought Wheeler Yuta. And then he brought up this, what happened at the Dean show where he was supposed to wrestle, but he got injured. And Tony Khan said, never mind, come anyway, we'll find something for you to do. And he said, look, I got there and I did what they had me do to the best of my ability, even though I was injured, and they paid me. And they were thankful, and I was thankful, and everyone was thankful. Because I'm sorry to say, that's how it works. That's just how it works. Anyway, I will say this, because I'm still seeing reports. I'm still seeing things where they're talking about how Bryan Danielson met with them both after their match on November 1st because he wasn't happy with how it went. Why would he have been happy? They fucking sandbagged the entire way. We have all seen the clip of powerhouse Megan Bayne lifting these two women, particularly Alize, who was zero cooperative. And this powerhouse of a woman just lifting them both up without any assistance from them. To drop them in a double German. Of course, Danielson goes back and says, you know what? Not good. Not a good match here, kids. Point that I'm making here is that it's still very fresh. It's still very fresh. It's still very raw. And let's see, and it's continuing. Someone just shared me a thing here. Nixon Newell this is Sean tweeting, Sean Rossap. Nixon Newell reached out to Fightful and claimed that neither she nor Miranda Alize have ever met Bryan Danielson. She was adamant that she was respectful and there was never a bad word said about AEW from Nixon and Miranda. See, okay, so I'm going to tell you, this is the thing here. This story, I think from this point forward, moving forward here, is no longer worth it. Okay? This situation with two middling, curtain jerkers here has already gone too far, and it is not worth it. People are acting like this is the Brawl Out, the sequel to the Brawl Out here, where in fact this is a whole bag of nothing. And it's a story that is as old as time, where pro wrestlers, have ideas and they see themselves as bigger than what they're actually worth. Like that, it's a story as old as time. So, unless there is some massive developments, unless there are things that really shatter to the core here, lawsuits, where it goes to another level of insanity, there's no reason to go on with it. This is a whole bunch of nothing now, because now it becomes hearsay. Oh, I'm reporting, I have been told by AEW sources that Bryan Danielson met with Newell and Alize and expressed his discontent with the match. Oh, we spoke with Nixon Newell, who said she has never even met Bryan Danielson in her entire life. You see what this becomes now? Now, this is too much. And it's not worth it. This is not worth it. Not on this level. Alize and Newell made their bed. They 100% fucked up. There's no other way to see it. Weeks after telling everyone that they can't get booked anywhere and that they're stressed, or at least Newell did. She's anxious about her career, whatnot. Why am I not getting booked? Gets a golden opportunity and just lets it all flush. Flushes it all away, I should say. Just flushes it all away. Because she doesn't want to do a 3-minute match that would benefit no one except for TJ, who are a tag team that are currently in the midst of a little bit of a push and an established tag team in the company with stars that the AEW fan base recognize and know and maybe even have an attachment to. No, you see how all of this is nonsense? So unless there's something significant that happens, a gigantic twist, there is nothing more to say here. It'll just be hearsay. He said, she said. There's going to be Twitch streams, and that's going to be that. It sucks that it leaked for them. It sucks that it leaked. They probably didn't want it to leak. It did, and that's the worst part. It sucks for them. But even if it hadn't leaked, I'm telling you, people talk, and someone would have figured it out. So, best of luck to them both moving forward. I don't know what this next chapter is going to look like. Who knows? Let's talk about the AEW National title. I cannot not but find this humorous. There's something very pro wrestling. It's like this is the quintessential messy pro wrestling drama that I think a lot of us really, really, really like. And, it doesn't involve, pro wrestlers or, pro wrestlers getting fired, and so on. And you kind of feel bad and you don't want to take too much glee in the chaos. But this 100% is exactly this type of chaotic, messy pro wrestling drama that I am into. Okay. We've got some stuff to talk about, folks. So last night on Dynamite, on November 5th, AEW revealed that they were creating the national title. Okay. Let's read this article. Once again, off the Figure 4 Online. It's again our boy Josh. Initially announced prior to Wednesday's Dynamite by AEW head Tony Khan, the inaugural champion will be decided in a casino gauntlet match at this month's AEW Full Gear. Khan appeared on an X stream alongside Tony Schiavone, saying that he has missed seeing the national championship on TBS TV, as the original NWA version dates back to Georgia Championship Wrestling and eventually makes its way to Mid-Atlantic. The title was merged in 1986 in a unification bout that took place between then United States champion Nikita Koloff and then national champion Wahoo McDaniel in a bout Koloff won. The merged title became the U.S. title that currently resides in WWE. Khan said he wanted to have the title for a long time, so he was bringing it back. He said it will be defended across multiple promotions like Ring of Honor and New Japan Strong, in addition to AEW. Anyway, I don't think New Japan Strong is going to be a thing anymore, but yeah. The first several men announced for the match are Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, and Ricochet. The three men, in addition to MVP and the Gates of Agony, had a verbal confrontation on Dynamite as their feud continues. It's the fourth title Khan has introduced this year, including the AEW Women's World Tag Team titles, the AEW Unified titles, the Merged Continental and International title, and the Ring of Honor Women's Pure title. Did we all see this little stream here? Should we play it?
It's great to see you again.
Good to see you too.
I'm here backstage at Wednesday Night Dynamite with my great friend, Mr. Tony Schiavone.
Tony.
Pat, Tony. It's amazing. It's really amazing. Have you noticed, by the way, Tony Khan now, his gimmick is he holds a coffee cup, right? Every time he's on camera now, he's got a coffee cup in his hand. Have you noticed this? Come on, X. I'm pressing the space bar. Why aren't you playing? Every fucking media player on planet Earth pause and plays when you hit the space bar. This site is such
What an
trash.
exciting show it's going to be. We had a very exciting conclusion to last week's Fright Night Dynamite, Tony. And we're about to get kicking off minutes from now on TBS, the Superstation, and on HBO Max with Wednesday Night Dynamite.
Yeah.
It's our final Dynamite before next.
I got to tell you, he's a good promoter. He's got his head screwed on tight for this stuff, always making connections. He's good at what he does.
Next week's Blood and Guts show. Earlier, I made an announcement that was, frankly, bittersweet announcement about the Blood and Guts match and having to make a change to the lineup. And I had a more positive.
We're talking about Queen Aminata here. If you've probably already heard by now, Queen Aminata is not. She's not cleared to wrestle. She's pulled out of last night's match, the Blood and Guts match, and she even pulled out of the Deadlock Pro match that she had lined up too, which sucks because she's the women's champion now. So that's awful.
Exciting announcement to talk about.
Because, yeah, quite frank, and I said it on, look, I'll say it here. I said it on the Dynamite review, and I'll say it here. Mina Shirakawa replacing Queen Aminata is a downgrade.
And you're going to be going out there on Dynamite to talk about this minutes from now on TBS and HBO Max. And as you know, Tony, it means so much to me to be able to do wrestling here on the Superstation TBS with you.
Always into the history.
I'm so proud of it because I grew up watching wrestling on TBS and I grew up watching you on this channel, and it's really cool.
Tony's like, shut up, I'm not that old. Like at some point, Tony's gonna be like, God damn it.
Being able to work here with you. It means
is that really Schiavone? Like, that's the thing now. Everyone when they meet Schiavone, they're all gonna yank. They're gonna try and Scooby-Doo him, right? They're gonna be like, yeah. They're gonna try and do that now.
A lot. And I have to say, one of the great traditions in wrestling, and something I'm really, really, something I've missed seeing on TV, Tony, is the National Championship. The National Championship goes back, I believe, to when Georgia Championship Wrestling appeared on TBS, the Superstation. It goes back to before I was even born.
Austin Idol was the very first NWA national champion.
And if I'm correct, Tony,
who was still affiliated with the current day NWA, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. I haven't watched the NWA in a while now.
National title came to work with you when Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling and Georgia Championship Wrestling merged?
Yeah, in 1985, we merged. Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, Georgia Championship Wrestling merged. And there was a U.S. Championship and there was a National Championship. And these two championships together were put together one match at the Omni back in 1986.
Koloff versus Wahoo.
And it became the U.S. Championship. So,
and as Josh Nason mentioned, the merge created the U.S. title that is currently in WWE. That's the lineage.
We haven't had a national champion in almost 40 years, Tony.
Wow. 39 years. Over 39 years since there was a national champion here on TBS. I think it's a great tradition. Also, there's promoters all over the country looking to book the top AEW stars.
All right. The question that I have, though, well, we'll get to it. Is I just keep in mind, like, the merging of the titles, right? That's the important thing. Just remember that the national title and the U.S. title is supposed to be merged. We'll get to this in a second. I want to watch the rest of this.
And there's wrestlers all over AEW chasing gold, and it's a tradition that goes back and something I have always wanted to have here in AEW, and something for years that I've wanted to bring back here to TBS. And since we have the chance to do these kinds of things, to create these kinds of memories, to create these kinds of lasting legacies in pro wrestling, I've wanted to bring the national title back for a long time, and we're going to be bringing the national title back. You're going to be talking more about it on TBS minutes from now, but I can tell you there's going to be, at AEW Full Gear, a casino gauntlet match to determine who will go out on TBS, who will be the first national champion on the Superstation since 1986.
Just for the record, and again, I said this on the Dynamite review, I hate this. I don't like it. Make a proper champion. Build someone up. Don't just like fucking drop a tournament, or not a tournament, but a gauntlet match, the battle royal. I don't like it.
It's going to be a very prestigious opportunity to
see prestigious. How? No, not really. I don't buy it anyway. Maybe, but I don't buy it.
Be the national champion. I've spoken to other promoters. I know my friends at New Japan Strong are anxious to bring an AEW national champion to defend the title in New Japan.
I'm sure.
I know in Ring of Honor, we would love to see the AEW national champion make
Wow, he talked to his partners in Ring of Honor
appearances, and of course here on Dynamite, on Collision, a national champion could be a great thing, and it's going to be great bringing the national title back to the Superstation after all these years. And you will be out there on Dynamite minutes from now on TBS, where it all began, and you'll be out there talking about who some of the participants in this casino gauntlet match are going to be.
Look forward, because if you think about the national championship, the great wrestlers who held the national championship, Wahoo McDaniel was the last one to hold the national championship. Tommy Rich held the national championship. As we know, Paul Orndorff, some of the great names in wrestling. You've always been about tradition. TBS,
Dusty,
national championship. That's a lot of tradition right there, Tony.
It's a great tradition. There have been some great national champions. You mentioned some of the great ones. And again, when you have a title that's got this kind of prestige, this kind of
didn't mention Austin Idol. He was the first. What about Austin Idol?
lineage, great champions like those, great champions like Dusty Rhodes. You had Jack Briscoe, and like you said, Paul Orndorff, Tommy Rich, Ted DiBiase, so many great wrestlers to hold the national title. And I can't think of a better way to bring it back to pro wrestling than right here on TBS, the Superstation, and with you, Tony Schiavone, talking about it. And it all is happening very soon. Wednesday Night Dynamite begins minutes from right now. It all kicks off 8 p.m. Eastern,
He's great.
7 p.m. Central on TBS and HBO Max.
You can make fun of Tony Khan as much as you like for a bunch of things, but he's an excellent promoter. He hits all the beats. He repeats the information over and over again and makes sure that it's drilled into your head. He's very good at what he does. Anyway, that we don't need to watch anymore. He's about to, sell us on Dynamite, and Dynamite's already happened. All right, let's take a look here. Anyone think the national title could be part of an angle? There's just so many comically ridiculous aspects to the title. The national title defended internationally, who also already a title in NWA. I don't know. It's part of an angle. I don't think Tony Khan wants to use his presence to do angles anymore. I think he did the thing with the Bucks and the neck brace, and I think he got a little clap back for that. I don't think so. Tony Schiavone has great hair dye. Does he dye his hair? I mean, maybe. But does he dye his hair? Looks good. I agree, though. I agree. If he does, it's tremendous. It is very good.
We'll see you all.
Yes, we'll see you all later. Now, here's the one exercise that I want to do with you all here. We're going to go to Cage Match, and we're going to take a look at the, if I can pull it up like this straight. Yeah, National Championship. Whatever was screwing up between Cage Match and Google has been fixed now, and that's tremendous. The National Championship, that's Extreme Zone Wrestling. That's not it. That's not it at all. That's not it at all. NWA National Championship. Now we're talking. currently held by Mike Mondo, who you may remember from the Spirit Squad. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing that I don't understand, right? It's like this title has the lineage, right? This title has the lineage. So when they merged the title, when was the match? When was the match? Because you see, it was retired for a while. See, that's it. See, right here. So it's Nikita who has the title, who wins the title off of Wahoo, and then they merge the titles, right? And we don't see anything regarding the national title until 1997, when it is won by Big Slam in one of these revivals of the NWA, right? Did the NWA just decide to reactivate the national title? That's probably just it, right? And then remove the national title lineage from the WWE US title lineage. And this would have been even before WWE took over. This was still when this was all happening when WCW was still around, and WCW was carrying the US title at that time, right? So do both titles then have an identical lineage up till September 1986? Do you think we can find that out? Oh, is this treated as two different titles on top of that? Oh, look. It is. They are treated like two different titles. See, I did not know this. The WCW United States Championship became inactive in 2001. See, I did not know this. I thought the current US title that they used was the one with the story, but with the lineage, but apparently not. And it would seem it was the 1986 we said, right? For the national title when they did the merge. So it would seem that it just continued, that it was indeed this lineage, the WCW. It was the WCW championship, United States Championship, that continued. That's very, very interesting. So if we go here, look, went a little too far. Yeah, Eddie Guerrero winning it. Isn't that interesting? That's very, very interesting. I did not know that. So I guess the national title that we have now, if based off of the cage match information that we have here, is indeed the one that is connected to the original NWA title, national title, but it completely disregards its merged history with the US title. It was retired when they merged the titles, but then was reactivated later on, and Doug Gilbert held it, and Stevie Richards, pinnacle of his career right there. You had Tully and Dusty and Buddy Landell and Terry Taylor, Black Bart, Ron Garvin. It's fantastic. It really was a who's who, right? Like these are all names. These are all people. These are all great wrestlers. Okay, so if we go back to our national title discussion here, so they were talking, they being Tony Khan was talking about reintroducing the title with its lineage and whatnot, and not its lineage, but bringing the title back and associating this new title with the lineage of great wrestlers in the past of the NWA national title. But there is right now, and as you saw in the cage match profile, there is right now an active NWA national title, which just so happens to be the NWA national title that that existed back in the day, that has the lineage. So, that made a lot of people very curious then, where it's like, hang on a second, wait a minute. Wait a second. Why is Tony Khan out here saying, that, we want to connect this with the past, and you got MVP in the ring talking about Nikita Koloff and Wahoo and, Paul Orndorff. And you're like, this is not that title. It cannot be that title, because that title exists in another promotion. It exists still in the NWA, because this is one of the intellectual properties that came to Billy Corgan when he bought the NWA, when he made the purchase. He got access to all of this, and he reactivated the national title, a few years ago. So, it begs you to wonder, did Tony Khan just not know? I'm pretty sure he's not necessarily keeping abreast of the comings and goings in the National Wrestling Alliance in 2025. But do you think that maybe he just doesn't realize that there's a national title out there and that it's actually being defended and whatnot? Because it was made pretty clear, right? It was made pretty clear when Mike Mondo, who is the current NWA national champion, when he jumped in and basically responded to all to the announcement of the creation of the national champion. Let's read again this article off of Figure 4 Online, The Observer. This NWA champion, national champion, Mike Mondo responded to the creation of AEW's latest title with a social media post on Wednesday night calling out AEW owner Tony Khan by name. AEW introduced their version of the national championship on Wednesday's Dynamite and announced that the inaugural champ will be crowned in a casino gauntlet match at Full Gear with Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin, the first wrestlers set to compete in the bout. Mondo, who has held the NWA national title since the promotion's anniversary show in August, wrote on X, formerly Twitter, of course. This is the quote here. Let me be clear. There is only one NWA and there is only one prestigious national championship that holds legit lineage and has for decades. So to Tony Khan or anyone else confused, here's the legit title with the company it belongs to and the legit national champion. My name is Mike Mondo. I love this line here. I love this line. Who wrote this? Ethan Renner. I love the Mondo 42 is perhaps best remembered as a member of the Spirit Squad in WWE in the 2000s. Like that. That's kind of like a, it's a punk was never asked type of line. It's like, oh, by Mike Mondo? Yeah, he was that one guy in the Spirit Squad. So fucking funny. So that's the thing. Got pretty heated on that level, and so look, I'm not necessarily saying that we need to give the benefit of the doubt to Tony Khan. Like, I would assume that Tony Khan is aware of this. Like, I'm not legitimately saying, well, Tony Khan probably doesn't know, right? Like, I'm being semi-facetious because he has to know. Like, there's someone in his entourage, right, that has had to tell him, Tony, the national title that you want to do, it exists in the NWA. It's actually active right now. Like, there's someone around him at the very least who knows. I'd be very shocked if this was like, I wasn't aware. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. God bless Brendan Thurston, who had this little report, dug in a little bit here into all of these happenings here with this article over in WrestleNomics that states that has the following title. AEW's new national title arrives amid a separate trademark dispute with NWA over Shockwave. Let's see what Brandon had to write here. AEW's new national championship title announced on Dynamite on Wednesday quickly caught attention, not just because it will be roughly the 12th belt for the promotion, but he's including Ring of Honor here, of course, but because the title shares a name with the championship in a prior incarnation of the National Wrestling Alliance in the 1980s, as well as the current version of the NWA under Billy Corgan's leadership. AEW's introduction of the title, whose first champion is to be decided at the company's Full Gear pay-per-view on November 22, also coincides with a separate ongoing dispute between AEW and the NWA over a different name, Shockwave. At least one NWA wrestler claimed on social media that the introduction of the new title by AEW was retaliation over the Shockwave trademark litigation. The NWA has used that name for some of its wrestling events as early as 2020. AEW has tried to trademark the name last year, possibly for a new television program, which has not launched. And I just realized it's not on the doc. Let me see here if I can get the tweet from said professional wrestler who had something to say about this. Okay, this is what he said here. This is the tweet that Brian Idol. I can talk, I promise. I know English. I know all the words, the best words. I don't give a shit about bridge burning or whatever people say I am. No, hang on, I got to read this over again because the punctuation is kind of not there. This is from Brian Idol, NWA talent, and also, guy who works. He's in the inner workings of the company as well. I also don't give a shit about bridge burning or whatever. People say I am 100% the NWA, and I'll never stand for anybody trying to steal this from us or do us dirty, and I would show up in person and defend this honor against all consequences, anywhere, any place, anytime. And I think the unfortunate thing is that we are unfortunately going to have to go to Ringside News, and I apologize for that. I'm very, very sorry. But this is where he left his comments. He went off on Tony Khan. We are now at the point where two televised wrestling promotions have resorted to using the NWA for relevance in the same week. Could it be that, as usual, we are winning way more than anyone gives us credit for? We are only getting started. The NWA has so much more to show you. And talking about Tony Khan here, he says, Tony, this is beneath you. Stick to what made you famous. Small, weird hands in the pocket wrestlers and other local VFW guys that you put in main events. Stop being petty, bro. I don't think anyone in the NWA should be calling out other promotions for using VFW guys, but let's move on. In another post here, Idol referenced NWA legend Austin Idol, who originally held the NWA National Championship, and accused Khan of trying to co-opt wrestling history for AEW's benefit. Austin Idol is the first ever national champion and basically the creator of it all, and he is still active in the NWA. Then he fired one more shot, mocking Khan's wealth, and suggested that AEW is attempting to buy legitimacy instead of earning it. Dude is richy rich, and it's not enough. He's bought his way in. Now he's got to steal legacies. Unreal. Like this is the main reason why people are really upset at get upset at Tony Khan, is because it's like, oh, he bought his way into the business. And, how else do you think promoters in the past did things? Anyway, it doesn't matter. So this is basically the wrestler that Brandon Thurston is referencing here. So if we continue a little bit on the article that Brandon had here, AEW and the NWA did not respond to our request for comment on this report. Our questions to AEW included asking whether the company has any response to the claims that the new title's name was chosen as a retaliatory move. We also asked whether AEW still has any intent to use the Shockwave name, because that's the impression that the NWA seems to be putting forward here, is that due to the litigation, that this is a response to the litigation that they're involved in regarding the trademark for Shockwave, and that this is simply AEW being petty. So, maybe but we don't know because no one's going on the record to say it. In its announcement, AEW referenced the title's origin in the territorial era of wrestling, when the belt was prominent in then NWA member promotions like Georgia Championship Wrestling, when the belt was seen in the 1980s on TBS, the network Dynamite airs on today. The NWA National Champ title has been revived at various times since it last appeared on TBS and is being used today by the NWA. The championship is currently held by Mike Mondo, who complained on social media about AEW's announcement on Wednesday night. Notably, we could not find any trademark registrations or applications by AEW, the NWA, or any other entity to protect simply national championship or any variation that may be tied to a championship title belt. That isn't surprising, since the phrase may be considered descriptive and has been used across decades by various entities before Corgan's underlying Lightning One Inc. entity took on the NWA name. That may make it especially difficult to register and enforce as a trademark if either company wanted to. So the trademark dispute between AEW and the NWA is over the Shockwave name only. NWA wrestler Brian Idol claimed in his posts online that the introduction of the new AEW title is a response to the Shockwave dispute, which we're going to leave as such for now. I don't think I don't necessarily want to dive back into all of the, we talked about this months ago, and there really hasn't been any movement. If you want to get all the background on this, well, our boy Brandon Thurston has you covered over on WrestleNomics with this free post. So it's a little messier, I think, than what a lot of people expected here. Because when he announced the national title, I was like, oh, what? This is kind of weird. I think like a lot of people, it's like, oh, this is a title that's going to be defended, internationally and whatnot. I was like, why just call it the national title? Anyway, I know what they're referencing. I understand what they're doing. But then after that, it dawned on me. It was like, wait a second. This exists in the modern day NWA. Like, this is an actual title that exists in the NWA today. And, if the issue that we have here is that Tony Khan is trying to create a link to the NWA's past with this title, but it is an extremely tenuous link. It's not fantastic. It's not like something that you're like, oh yes, 1 + 1. It's a very tenuous link. And that's the core of the issue. Because if he had just called his title the national title, whatever, and just like, yeah, we're starting this title and woohoo, I don't think anyone would have, I don't think we'd be having this conversation. I don't think I'd be bringing up these details tonight on stream. But the fact that let me explain why. Because look, there as far as a title name goes, like we saw it when we were doing the cage match search earlier on, there are multiple other titles out there that are national titles, right? There are other U.S. titles or, world titles and so on and so forth, right? There's even been, New Japan had an intercontinental title, right? So, like names are names and it's whatever, right? It's, who cares? It's really the lineages that people do care about. So if you just called it If you just called it the national title, we'd be all just like brushing it off and going, well, weird name, but let's move on. But the fact that he's really trying to co-opt the history of the original national title when the strap is still out there doing the work and still has its with its lineage very much alive, that I find is a little weird. That's a little strange. So I don't know how this is gonna turn out. I guess I see the connection between Shockwave, AEW, and whatnot, but I thought this had just like, I remember when the NWA challenged the trademark that Tony Khan had put out, right, for AEW Shockwave. And I remember when the NWA did that, the challenge, and I was like, oh, this will be interesting. But I never heard anything. There's never anything that came out of it. There wasn't anything that there was no follow-up. It didn't make any news. So I kind of feel like it was just maybe abandoned, which is probably the case, because it's probably the case that it was abandoned, at least the name, the concept abandoned so far, because there has not been a third program like everyone was expecting to see. Well, you know, we remember when everyone was thinking that Shockwave was going to be like a third show for AEW that was going to replace Rampage, but was going to be on Fox, you know, on Fox proper. And that just never materialized. And right now, I don't think there's any signs that AEW is going to be producing an extra hour or, you know, more programming as it stands right now. At the very least, we don't know. So like, I feel like it's kind of normal that the trademark talk for Shockwave sort of, you know, melted away. Like, look, and these are also pro wrestlers coming out and being angry and posting and getting all riled up. Maybe this has nothing to do. Maybe this has the Shockwave, the Shockwave trademark dispute and this they're just completely unrelated. And it's just wrestlers being angry. You know what I mean? Which is absolutely, positively possible. You know, these are wrestlers. They're pro wrestlers. Let's not pretend that, you know, they're aware of all the intricacies of what's going on in their promotions. That's not necessarily the case. Yes, I understand, you know, Idol works within the structure of the NWA, but, you know, look, I work in a structure in a company. I'm not aware what happens in, you know, the legal department. That's none of my business. You know, so, and they don't know what's going on my end of the thing of things. So, you know, just because I work in the company doesn't mean that I know everything that's going on all the time. Thankfully, I don't. That'd be exhausting, and I should be paid more if I did. But in this circumstance specifically, to come back to this little nugget that we're chipping at, I think there's like the NWA wrestlers are raising a stink, and I think it's okay to do so because Tony trying to attach the lineage to this new title that he's creating is kind of preposterous, and it doesn't make any sense. And I would even go as far as to say that it's a little bit disrespectful, you know? I'm not into it. And I would have figured that a guy like Tony Khan would be a little more sensitive to that. Unless, again, like the only thing that could explain this, where I would be satisfied with, is if Tony had no fucking clue that the NWA National title was still an active championship, that it was not dead, or that it was dead. That was the only way. This is the only way I could buy this. But I don't buy it. I don't buy it that Tony Khan didn't know, or that no one around him didn't like raise a flag and say, hey, that title's being defended right now. Like there's someone in his entourage, in that fucking company that someone that he talks to had to have told him, you know what, Tony, this title being, you know, it's active right now. I don't know. Like, I think it's being blown out of proportion for what it is. You know, I think it's being blown out of proportion for what it is. I think the NWA is entitled to protect the legacy and the legacy of it of its championships. I completely endorse that. I think it's fine. Is it a retaliatory? Is AEW doing this in a petty retaliatory move for NWA sticking up for their Shockwave IP? I don't know. It seems like a stretch. I don't know, and I wouldn't bet the farm on a pro wrestler telling me that that's what it is. I think it's just a bunch of hooey. I just don't know. I'm going down that path. Maybe it is, but I don't think so. Could this have all been avoided if Tony had decided to just change the name of the title? Yes. Could it have been all avoided if he had just decided not to try and attach the history of a belt to this, of another belt to this new belt that he's making? Yes, absolutely. It's weird because I really feel like Tony should get this as a fan. I think he should have understood this, saw this coming. It's very strange. It's a strange little deal here. I was not expecting an NWA AEW feud over the lineage of the national championship. Wow. Okay. I did not have that on my bingo card at all. So yeah, it's a little strange. It's a little odd. We'll see how, but here's the ultimately here's the final thought on this. And it goes maybe a little, you have to pull back a little bit from the situation when you look at the whole scope of things and you're like, why are we creating a new belt to do the things that the international belt and the international championship did? Right? You're like, the international championship is exactly how Tony Khan presented the national title. Was my partner promotions are gonna this belt will show up on partner promotions, will be defended around the world, so on and so forth, which is exactly what the international title was for. And previous to that, called the All Atlantic title. So why didn't we just reactivate that? I don't understand. I don't understand. All of this could have been avoided, and it's a bunch of nonsense. But here's the thing: it is some fantastic. It is some fantastic, messy pro wrestling drama. There are no victims here. There's no one to feel bad about. This is just great fucking nonsense, carny chaos that I love so much. And it had been a while since we'd had something just like this, right? It had been a while. I'm so glad. So we're obviously going to be keeping an eye on this as we move on. But yeah, I mean, look, what more is there to say at this point than it's a lot of nonsense. It's a lot of hooey. Well, there is to it. Hiroshi Tanahashi's opponent for his retirement match at Wrestle Kingdom 20 has been revealed. And it is none other than El Rainmaker, Kazuchika Okada. We're going to read an article here off the Figure 4 Online Wrestling Observer. Hiroshi Tanahashi and Kazuchika Okada will wrestle one final time in the Tokyo Dome on January 4. Tanahashi defeated Yuto Ice in the main event of today being Saturday on the 8th, which was when this article was written, November 8th. On today's Road in Anjo show, held in Okada's hometown, and on his 38th birthday. Following the match, Okada's old coin drop music played, and he came out to confront Tanahashi along with his longtime manager, Gedo. Oh, man. Congratulations on your retirement and thanks for your hard work, Okada said before challenging him for Wrestle Kingdom 20, adding, don't get too tired before then. The rain will fall on Wrestle Kingdom 20, Gedo said. although the match has yet to be officially confirmed. Now it's been officially confirmed. It will be the 4th time the two have wrestled at Wrestle Kingdom and the bazillionth time they've wrestled. That's not in the article. That's me adding a little flair. Tanahashi beat Okada at Wrestle Kingdom 7 and 9 before Okada finally beat him at Wrestle Kingdom 10. And then we get the lineup for Wrestle Kingdom so far, which, of course, let's run through it really, really quickly here. IWGP World Heavyweight Championship champion Konosuke Takeshita versus IWGP Global Heavyweight Champion Yota Tsuji in a winner-takes-all match. Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Kazuchika Okada. Evil versus Aaron Wolf for the never openweight title and Aaron Wolf's Olympic gold medal. It's true. It's true. New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong Women's Champion Saya Kamitani versus IWGP Women's Champion Shuri in a winner-takes-all match. So that's all fine and dandy. We'll talk about the lineup to Wrestle Kingdom on another occasion, because this is another story that got people quite bothered. Certainly did elicit some emotions here, right? So look, it goes without saying that Tanahashi's final match in Japan is a big deal. And we've seen it to be a big deal because of the ticket sales. They are now, close to 34,000 tickets or over 34,000 tickets. I should have checked before jumping on here. They've got like 34,000 tickets sold for the Dome. And this was before the announcement of Kazuchika Okada being in the main event, which in likelihood will be able to push a couple of extra thousand tickets here to see Kazu back in the New Japan ring. And look, by the reaction that he got at the venue where they were at, people were legitimately excited to see him. You know, despite the fact that Okada's departure from New Japan was, always was always a little strange how it was handled. Lots of reports of it being bitter. Not an outright like feudal state, but a bitter departure. People are nonetheless very excited to see him back. They're welcoming the Rainmaker back with with all of his charms with open arms. So the question when it comes to Tanahashi's retirement was never, will it be a big name? Whether it was going to be a big name, if it's going to be a big name, but which big name it was going to be, right? One that would make sense in every category. Now, the thing that a lot of us have to just accept, the reality that we just have to come to grips with, is that Kazuchika Okada fighting Hiroshi Tanahashi in his last match at Wrestle Kingdom 20 was plan B. And that is just how it goes. It's not a consolation prize. It's not a oh, well, we didn't get what we wanted, this is second best kind of thing. No. It was, we had someone else in mind. It didn't work out for multiple reasons. And we're going with Okada himself. Now, I want to be clear here, because I posted that on Blue Sky, and a lot of people took exception to the fact that I was saying that Okada is a plan B. People saying that the phrasing, right? They took offense to the phrasing, saying he's too good a wrestler to be a plan B. And it's not a knock on Okada's ability in any shape or form. It's just reality. You had a 1A and 1B if you prefer, right? And we still went with 1B. He was the second choice, because the first idea, which was Shinsuke Nakamura, was on the table until it wasn't. And this is not a referendum on Kazuchika Okada's greatness, okay? That's not it either. This is not in dispute. I think you can realize both situations can coexist. That Kazuchika Okada was not Hiroshi Tanahashi's first choice, that it was his second, and that does not reflect poorly on Kazuchika Okada or the oeuvre of Kazuchika Okada, the ensemble of his career. God damn it. Okada is a great pick. It is an exceptional pick. He's Tanahashi's generational rival. He stood up to Tanahashi all those years ago, took the belt off of them. This is one of the greatest feuds in the history of professional wrestling. The match is going to be great because you know Okada is going to work hard to make this moment special. Now, I have said myself into this microphone and on various social medias that Nakamura would have been my pick. I would have gone with Nakamura. I think the history between Tanahashi and Nakamura is just as interesting, and it really would have felt extra super duper special. It really would have felt special. It's kind of a full circle thing where we're really talking about ending your career against someone with whom you started your career. Now, I know there's a lot of people who are really, 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 they're all twisted into knots over this. A lot of people, AEW fans, WWE fans, New Japan fans. I feel like most people are upset in all of these three camps. The reports about Nak being on the table were not fantasy. They were real. New Japan held off announcing Tanahashi's opponent for a while now. And that is 100% a sign that they were trying to get something to happen, that they were juggling between ideas, that there were some negotiations, that there was something going on. But that is absolutely a sign. It's absolutely a sign that they were juggling ideas. Otherwise, they would have had Tanahashi's opponent walk out or walk into the press conference, I should say, that they held a couple of weeks ago, where they had, Soup and Tsuji and Aaron Wolf and Evil, and Tanahashi there alone saying, "Yeah, I don't know who my opponent is, her," and then pull out his whiteboard with the Wrestle Kingdom attendance on it. They would have announced it there. No, they weren't ready. And from what I understood, there was a lot of scrambling. Listen, I don't speak to anyone in New Japan. I have no contacts. I know no one in New Japan. But I know people who are very well connected to New Japan. People that I trust vehemently with what they know and how, with the information that they're privy to. 100% trust. And I heard that there was a lot of scrambling. There was a lot of stuff going on. That's what I've been told. And I have no reason to not believe the sources that I have access to. The sources that the people I have access to have access to. And of course there was the tease, right? There was the tease when Tanahashi posted on Twitter saying, I thought I heard something, after Nakamura borrowed his signature, I love you line that Tanahashi uses. I'm not going to try to pronounce it in Japanese. It'd be insulting. But the thing that Tanahashi says, Nakamura says it when he's at the Ryogoku for a WWE house show. Everyone goes, oh shit. There were teases. There was something going on, but it didn't happen. Why didn't it happen? Well, the rumor, and again, most of what we're going to be talking about here, the vast majority of what we're going to be talking about here is all rumor and conjecture, right? Because no one's able to verify this. No one is ready to go on the record of this because, of course not, it's pro wrestling. So it's all rumor, right? But the rumor was that Tony Khan did not approve of Nakamura's participation in at Wrestle Kingdom 20. The thinking was that Tony wanted one of his guys involved in the Tanahashi send-off if any interpromotional cooperation was to be had for the send-off, right? And it makes sense. It makes sense that Tony would stick up for it because he is a partner. I mean, AEW and New Japan, I should say, are business partners, have a very solid relationship. Some would say too solid. And Tony has easily two guys on his roster who would make pitch perfect opponents for Tanahashi, Okada, and I would argue Kenny Omega. So Tony's like, no, I don't want. I'm already booking one of my guys on this show in Konosuke Takeshita. He's also one of my guys. He's one of your guys, but he's also one of my guys. And I'm not sure I want WWE guys on a show where my guys are going to be there. And look, this is important. I want to repeat this. This is conjecture, okay? There is nobody outside that inner circle who knows what happened, okay? Even Dave Meltzer, right? Even Dave doesn't even know what happened. Look here. This was what he said on Wrestling Observer Radio today. Nakamura was interested in doing it. I don't know what happened. There's a lot of stories going around. This is true. I remember asking about it at the time from WWE, and they just said there's no deal, but he does have something in his contract that he can do stuff, but WWE still have to approve it. So essentially what Dave is saying here is that Nakamura could have done it. All he needed was to pitch the idea to WWE and WWE to rubber stamp it, and he'd be on his way because he can do stuff. But there's been multiple stories floating around. Even Dave doesn't have a handle on it. This is how convoluted it is. No one is putting their name on it. It's probably a very wise thing as well to do. I'm not gonna lie. But still, when the news broke, New Japan fans immediately blamed AEW and Tony Khan because I don't know if you've heard, if you're a hardcore a New Japan fan, AEW is the enemy. AEW is the source of all evils. Now, here's the thing. Without Tony Khan absolutely necessarily having a say in the booking, okay? You cannot fault him for being uncomfortable about his established business partner negotiating with his direct territorial competitor, especially when that competitor is doing everything in its power to snuff him out of existence. And even more so when one of his guys, Tony Khan's guys, is in the main event. So I can understand whether Tony is a chill dude, is chill about this, or whether he's super involved in the booking. From a business perspective, him raising a flag, if he did, most reports seem to say that he did, but if he did, it makes perfect sense. I cannot blame him. Even if he decided to pull a power play and say, look, if you book Shinsuke Nakamura, I am taking Konosuke Takeshita out of the main event. Let's say he even did that. Can you really blame him? It's not as if WWE plays nice with him. It's not as if AEW is on top of the world and This is not Tony Khan from 2019, 2020, where maybe back then, I think that Tony Khan might have considered it and said, you know what? Not a bad idea. Let's do that. I can't blame him. I can't blame him on any level to do this. But the question, I think, that is most significant is how much better would it have been to get into bed for New Japan to get into bed with World Wrestling Entertainment over something like this? And the answer would have been not better at all, because they would have wormed something in there that would have made it just like completely perfect for them. Something that would just be so overblown and completely lopsided into their favor that you just sit back and like, why did they agree to this? Why did they agree to this just to get Shinsuke Nakamura one night in a match? Yes, Tanahashi's match, sure. Retirement match, sure. But why would they do this on one night? I've seen people say, oh, there's been precedent. You know, they let Carl Anderson go wrestle at Wrestle Kingdom, a couple of years ago. I mean, different. Context is super important. It's very different because Carl Anderson was already booked for these dates when he got the call to go hang out in WWE again before getting fired once again. This was in the Infinity Gauntlet days of Paul Levesque. Carl, because of his attachment to New Japan, because he's always had a sense of loyalty to New Japan, went to WWE and said, I have to honor these dates. It is not the same. And even if it had been, even if it had been a same type of context, that means New Japan would have done WWE a favor and WWE would cash back in on that favor. And how would that have turned out? I don't think that would have been necessarily a good thing. For all the ails that New Japan fans place on AEW for everything that is wrong with the fucking promotion, getting into bed with WWE is objectively worse. WWE has never entered a relationship with another promotion that has not meant disaster or an ending, a conclusion to that promotion. I hope everyone is counting down the days for TNA, right? I hope no one is really thinking that TNA is going to survive and flourish, for another 10 years. I hope not. Getting into an agreement with WWE over this would have been alarming news. I would have been, again, like I said, Nakamura would have been my choice, but at what cost would it have been? At what cost? So, it's a question of what do you do? And look, we know WWE has been desperately trying to get a foothold in Japan for years, and they just can't for multiple reasons that are not just specifically wrestling related. There's business stuff that's the way the Japanese conduct business and how open or not open they are to international endeavors coming in, so on and so forth. They've been trying to get a foot in Japan for years. Everyone is very, very weary about this Noah relationship that they have now. They have a relationship with Marigold as well. How would this turn out with New Japan being the biggest wrestling promotion in Japan, suddenly becoming a thrall to WWE in whatever reason? That would equate to disaster. You could bitch and moan about Tony Khan having destroyed New Japan, but this would be objectively worse. And I still do not, just for the record, I do not buy into the whole New Japan is in the shithole right now because of Tony Khan taking away all the talent. I do not buy that. I don't buy it for a second. And yes, he took two of the company's biggest stars, swiped them away, but the company, New Japan, did nothing to counteract that creatively. Did not take a step back and go, all right, listen, boys, let's crack our knuckles. We got to figure out who's going to be our next crop of talent, because we're in the shithole now. And then Naito leaving the company, and now Tanahashi retiring. How is all of this shit Tony Khan's fault? How is it Tony Khan's fault that there are no top guys being clearly pushed in the company out of all of the fresh young talent that they have? It seems like Yota Tsuji might be the chosen one, and that's a good pick. They went with Shota Umino, that failed, but they had so many others that they could just try stuff out, get a little creative with the booking, break some of the molds, try some things up, shake some things up. Nothing. And somehow the state of New Japan is Tony Khan's fault. Anyway, just want him to make that very clear. Beyond all that, like this protectionism for these companies, on these companies, it's kind of wild. It's kind of wild because, where was this righteous outrage from New Japan fans when New Japan was stealing DDT's top talent and bringing it to their side, or when they tried to take over Noah, like literally? Where was all that outrage? I guess that's okay if New Japan does it. It's always the same thing with this tribalism nonsense, regardless, right? It's always the same thing. It's always a question of, well, what does my preferred promotion do? What are they doing, or who's doing it to them? It's one or the other. That's what changes the perspective. It's whether it depends on what side of the coin your guys fall into. If they're growing and getting into agreements with other promotions, whatnot, it's like, oh yeah, well that's because we're a great promotion and so on and so forth. But then if they're doing things that you don't like to your favorite promotion, then they become the enemy. The fans need to stop treating New Japan as the victim in this situation and start holding this fucking company accountable for the creative slump that it's in right now. They created this themselves. Did Tony Khan signing away Will Ospreay and Kazuchika Okada have an impact? Yes, it fucking had. It absolutely had an impact. But New Japan did jack shit to try and make up for the creative void, or the void of these two men leaving the company. New Japan should have been better prepared for a talent disappearance like this. They really had. Anyway, back to this Okada Tanahashi stuff. If we were to speculate a little bit, after all of the, however this was negotiated or brought together and whatnot, it's possible that this makes for some interesting, like an interesting broader game of give and take now, where it's like, okay, if I'm New Japan, let's say I'm New Japan, and my partner is laying down the law and saying, well, we can't approve of you using Shinsuke Nakamura because he's with WWE. All right. Well, if we use your guy, Kazuchika Okada, on the show, then you have to agree to Yota Tsuji winning the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Like, to me, I think that would be a fair trade-off. Where it's like, okay, we get your guy, but you're going to give us something back. And what we're going to get back is Yota Tsuji becoming champion. This is pure speculation, okay? I am 100% not saying that this is what happened, but it's absolutely something that you can think about and go, yeah, I mean, this makes sense. This situation just might have secured world champion Yota Tsuji at Wrestle Kingdom. I mean, maybe that was also at the same time, maybe this was always the planned result. Maybe it was another one, and now it's like, well, no, we have to go down this path. And like I saw, I actually got confronted on Blue Sky with someone who was basically saying that this was all WWE's fault for not letting Shinsuke Nakamura do his thing, for not letting Shinsuke Nakamura go off and do this match, and that they were doing a great disservice to Shinsuke Nakamura, and I can't buy that, and I have very little sympathy when it comes to Shinsuke Nakamura and how his career has been managed. A lot of people will blame WWE for that, but Nakamura has been with the company since 2017. He has had multiple times where he has had to renew his contract, and every time he has chosen to stay. He has chosen to stay every single time. So he is okay with what's going on. If he wasn't, he'd pull a Ricochet. He'd pull a Ricochet where Ricochet was fed up of, doing whatever nonsense they had him doing. And then him going, you know what? No, I'm done here. I'm not renewing for the big money. I'm going off and I'm doing my own thing now. I'm trying something else out. Now, Shinsuke is absolutely okay with what he's doing. He is 100% okay with this. There's no other way there, and there's no other way to see it. Could WWE be doing more with him? Yes, sure. But Shinsuke doesn't seem to care that they're not doing more with him, that they're not lining him up with world championships and whatnot. He doesn't seem to care. He seems perfectly content in just being where he is. So I am not going to get more upset about a wrestler's lot in WWE than the wrestler himself. If he's okay with this, I don't have two shits to say about it. It is what it is. And which is also, Shinsuke Nakamura will continue to be my shining example of why putting active wrestlers into the Observer Hall of Fame is a bad idea. But let's move on. That's another topic. I think that Nakamura overall he's exactly in the spot he wants to be, and would he really have been looking forward to doing this? Would he really have done this? It's hard to say. Like, I don't know. But based on his actions, his very observable, concrete actions, which are staying with WWE, even though WWE treat him as a replacement player, secondary thoughts, it's like, if he's okay with that, well, that's all there is to it. You can only blame WWE so much. You can go and say, but it's WWE's responsibility to find something to do with their wrestlers. No, it's not their responsibility, first of all. And second of all, they can do whatever the hell they want with the contracted talent that they have. And if it's to say, stay home and collect a check, stay home and collect the check, Shinsuke. And he seems completely okay with that. Look, to wrap this one up, the Okada Tanahashi rivalry is part of the fabric of the golden age of New Japan of the 2010s. It's one of its most essential components. Okada debuting as the Rainmaker, dethroning Tanahashi, and now potentially will be putting the last spike in Tanahashi's career. I mean, it's full circle storytelling. You can't be against it. It's not a random thing. Like this 100% makes sense. Look, Okada, you see it right here. Okada showed up dressed in all black like he did when he debuted. You know, he's the perfect final opponent because he embodies everything Tanahashi built, right? The main event standard, the ace aura, and the spirit of New Japan's revival. You know, we can't say this enough, like a lot of people will say, what a great and generous gesture did Hiroshi Tanahashi do by allowing Kazuchika Okada, a young guy, to come back to win him, to beat him, and to elevate him as a star. Hiroshi Tanahashi did this because he saw the potential in Okada like everyone else, and he was like, I need this kid to stick around to give me a feud for the next 5-6 years. And that is exactly what happened. And it even went beyond that. And it became a generational feud. This was Tanahashi just sniffing out the right guy and going, this is the guy. And I'm going to put this guy over because it's going to be good for me if this happens. And I dare you to tell me the opposite, to give me a solid argumentation of the opposite. See, and the match is going to be really good. Nakamura, my logic was always that Nakamura had that essence where he and Tanahashi came in at the same time, and they were molded at the same time, and then both helped transform New Japan into what it is today. Right? Both in their ways. And it would have been a charisma match, it would have been a vibes match, and it would have just been full of emotion. Here, we're going to get the emotion, but mostly we're going to get a really well-worked wrestling match that I can get behind. We're going to talk about Ridge Holland. What's his Menzies. Luke Menzies. I think that's how you pronounce it. Luke Menzies. This is who we're going to talk about for a little title and a little time. I was looking at chat and I got confused. Don't look at chat while you're talking, Warren. You're an old man. You're going to get confused. That's just how it goes. But we're going to talk about Ridge Holland here, who is has never been a favored subject here on the Mr. Warren Hayes show. It's not that he's, it's just like he's always been a guy and we never had much to say, and he was never really remarkable until WWE decided to not renew his contract. But there's been a little development. Unless you haven't been following this, we're going to talk about it through this article on the Figure 4 Online, The Observer, by our boy Josh Nason. Excuse me, Josh, for butchering your name. Ridge Holland's nightmare year continued to get slightly worse, according to a new report from Fightful Select. The outlet reported Wednesday being the November 5th, reported Wednesday that WWE had terminated Holland's contract early due to comments Holland made on social media, considering them a quote-unquote breach, according to the report. Despite being sidelined with a Liz Frank injury suffered in a September TNA match, Holland was told in October that his deal would not be renewed. The outlet didn't note when the effective date of the early termination is, but his contract was initially reported to be up on November 14. If it was done Wednesday, he would miss 9 days worth of pay. Holland took to X on Tuesday to say he felt, quote unquote, hung out to dry by WWE, and that he never thought he would be unable to pay his mortgage. Here's a quote from Menzies here. I feel like I've just been hung out to dry after getting injured working for another company on behalf of WWE. Add to that my contract not being renewed, knowing that I wouldn't be able to wrestle for 7 months. This is brutal. Yes, they are taking care of the surgery and physical therapy, but let's be honest, That's the bare minimum after what we sacrifice for the company. Plus the possibility of having to get my neck fused too. Talk about getting totally fucked. I don't know why he censored himself. Was he afraid that his kids were going to read it? Anyway. Holland said 2 weeks ago that he may also need neck surgery. As he recovers from the post-Liz Frank surgery, WWE is expected to keep covering any costs, any related medical expenses. The 37-year-old is expected to be unavailable to wrestle for up to 7 months. He is married with a family of 5. Now, if we don't recall, Ridge Holland, back in October, did indeed say that he was probably going to be in need of neck surgery. In an update on social media, Ridge Holland says that along with his foot cast being removed, he's getting x-rays to ensure everything is healing well. However, he mentioned that he is also suffering from a neck injury and will get imaging to see if surgery is needed there. This is what he said in his video. Next Tuesday, I've got to go to Birmingham, Alabama to have the cast cut off, some more x-rays to make sure the foot's all good, and we can go possibly to partial weight bearing. The kicker is that prior to the foot, I had a neck injury that I was going to get imaging for. I got imaging for the post-foot surgery, and I'm going to Birmingham also to see the neck specialist. I mean, worst case scenario, I'll need surgery, and I'm hoping for the best case scenario, which is injections. But I'm having some nerve impingement, which is sending pain down my arm, so I'm a little bit apprehensive about what's going to happen because it's another kick in the balls, really. So I'll keep you posted. So this, of course, all started when he announced on social media himself that his contract was not going to be renewed, and basically saying that his contract was going to come to an end on November 14, where basically he said WWE was going to continue paying and whatnot. So we go back to our original story here. Look, this is fucking shitty. There's no two ways to go about it. You can't just like sit here and go, oh, fuck him. No, this is infinitely shitty that they decided to no longer cover his medical expenses just because he started posting on social media. Now, if you were around a couple of streams ago when we listened to the David Otunga video where he was breaking down his old WWE contract in regards to the Andrade stuff, right? Where he was sort of breaking things down to sort of figure out to explain to make sure we all understood like what was the deal with the no competes in WWE contracts. He also mentioned, I don't know if you remember, he was also mentioning as part of the causes for being fired, you also agreed to not say anything disparaging as long as you were still receiving like monetary compensation. I don't remember exactly what the terminology was, but like there's still there is a clause in WWE's contract that says, well, we can fire once you're done, we will continue to pay you, but you cannot, comment on anything related to the company as long, otherwise you'll be in breach of contract. And I think this is what they're calling for, where he's giving updates on his injuries and, saying, the company is still going to pay for my surgery, and he said, I'm thankful for the experience and all that on the day that he announced that he was released and so on and so forth. What is their fucking problem? What is this fucking company's fucking problem? A company which, by the way, I don't know if you heard, recorded over $400 million revenue in Q3 of 2025, which was it was a ridiculous growth rate. I can't remember off the top of my head, but just like preposterously high. And they're going to start fucking around with this dude who has done everything that this company has ever told him to do, even go wrestle in TNA for fuck's sake, right? And they're going to be like, yeah, you know what? We're no longer paying for your shit because you went on social media and you started talking. It's not as if he started shooting. It's not as if, this isn't a CM Punk situation where he goes on the Colt Cabana podcast and empties his guts and gets everyone, in legal trouble with WWE, right? Like it's not this type of situation. He's just saying, you know what? This is kind of annoying, but I'm going to pull through and whatnot. And they're mad. They're just mad at him. That is some fucked up bullshit. That is really some fucked up bullshit for what happened here. And again, like this is a guy that, Ridge Holland, as far as Ridge Holland, the professional wrestler goes, he could come and go. I really, I've never had any attachment to him. I don't know. I have never met a Ridge Holland fan. I've never met anyone going, yeah, Ridge Holland, with a t-shirt, buying the action figure. Was there even an action figure? Or, playing WWE 2K. Rich Holland's my main. Was he even in the game to begin with? See, like that's the things. Like just a vanilla guy with a very clear ceiling, right? And he hit that ceiling, and that's fine, And he had a nice little main roster run, doing the thing with Sheamus and Pete Dunne, and there you go. And of course, the unfortunate situation with Big E, where he injured Big E and Big E's career might be done. So, outside of that, ultimately outside of that, a harmless situation overall. It kind of, it's the kind of guy we'll talk about in years from now. Remember Ridge Holland? Yeah, I do actually. But, outside of my own feelings here and, how his career went, this fucking stinks. This fucking stinks. And this company, this juggernaut media company shouldn't be penny pinching to this point off of, medical rehab for a guy who spent, how long was he? I'd say at least 6 years, right? He's at least been 6 years in this system. And, again, maybe not the most decorated or recognizable dude, it's like that, that's fine. But nonetheless, you kind of, he did everything. He's been in the system since 2018, okay? He's been in the WWE system since 2018. Let's be real here. And you're just going to discard him because he went on social media and he started talking about his injuries. As far as I know, he hasn't been disparaging to anyone. I don't think he's been awful to anyone. I mean, it's extremely, chat says it, right? Extremely petty. And here's for a company, let's put this in perspective. This is what we cannot lose sight of. This company made over $400 million within 3 months this year. In quarter 3, they made $400 million. Not over the year, not half the year, just 3 months in the year. And they are going to, they're going to be like fucking Scrooge, sitting at his desk, counting the pennies out of the little velvet pouches. Gonna get all the little coins out, all the little all the pence, what they call it, right? Over a guy just, who needs to be rehabilitated because he got injured while fucking working for you. That's insane. That's insane. That makes no fucking sense. TKO is really an awful company, but we knew this was going to happen. right? I don't think there was any question that we knew that this was going to happen when they purchased WWE, because just look at how they handle UFC. Just look at how this company handles UFC. It has been handling UFC for years. How can anyone really be surprised? You know, my feelings right now are not they're not surprised as much as disgust. You know, even if I'm not entirely surprised, I can still be, I can still think that this fucking sucks. I can't emphasize that enough. That is so bad, so wrong. Poor guy. I legitimately feel bad for the guy. And here's the other thing. Now that there's a GoFundMe that has been set up, right? There's a GoFundMe that's been set up. I think it's one of his neighbors or a family friend who set up the GoFundMe, and like it's $60,000 they're looking for. Can you imagine? $60,000 is what we're estimating for this guy's rehabilitation, and TKO is going poo poo. Do you know how much of a fucking drop in the bucket $60,000 is for these people? 60,000. That's nothing for them. Like it's not even spare change. It's like stuck between the cushions. It's preposterous. And in this same GoFundMe, you know, the person who started it up sort of listed like everything that had happened, so on and so forth. And they outright said that even that before being fired, Ridge Holland had taken a 55% pay cut. He left when they said, we're done with you on main, we're sending you back to NXT. They clearly reverted him back to an NXT contract. And they were like, well, this is the money. And this is the money that goes along with an NXT contract. And the guy had to take it. Otherwise, what is he going to do? Get nothing at all? Like he said, like, you know, he's got 5 kids. He's got family to feed. He's got a mortgage to pay. So he has to take it, and he's got no leverage because it's Ridge Holland. He's got no leverage because he's got nothing to lean on. He's never made a mark in the company. Like, he's entirely replaceable. They know it. So they're like, well, we'll send you back to NXT, but you're going back on an NXT contract. 55%. A 55% pay cut. That is insane. That is just crazy. I can understand taking a cut, being moved from the major leagues to the minor leagues, but holy fucking shit, dudes. Of course, the family friend could be embellishing for all we know. Don't get me wrong, right? She could be, is it 45% or is it 50% or is it 55%? Whatever, it's a hell of a pay cut to take. Like, if you had taken a 10% pay cut, we wouldn't be mentioning this, right? You wouldn't be adding that in your GoFundMe. You know what I mean? You wouldn't be adding, oh, he had to take a 10% pay cut. 10%. Okay. All right. No big deal. It's like, all right then. That's fine. But, higher numbers like this, woof. That's insane. Like, that is fucking insane. Utter mistreatment. It's disgusting, really. I fucking hate it. I hate it. And I don't, like I said, like, I have no attachment to Ridge Holland as a performer. I have never been a fan of his work. It's mostly a guy where I'm like, ugh, all right. Let's get it over with kind of thing. It's like, he never stood out. Never a guy, when they brought him up to main, and was like, Ridge Holland, really? All right. It is what it is. Don't get me wrong, but that's preposterous. That is just preposterous, ridiculous behavior. Not just the contract, but, saying, oh, we're not going to pay you because you're being a blabbermouth on social media when he hasn't been saying anything scandalous. Fuck this. Fuck them. Fuck them. And I hope he gets more than enough money in his GoFundMe to sustain him and his for a while. Look, we'll keep an eye on the developments regarding Old Ridge here, but hopefully he gets everything settled and can push through this. Amidst all the fucking Newell Alize bullshit, this happens, and it legitimately breaks my heart. I'm going to read this article off of the Figure 4 Online. Deadlock Pro Wrestling's next show may be its last. The independent promotion announced Saturday on social media that aside from a show in Japan in 2026, their 4th anniversary event on December 12 in Cary, North Carolina, will be their last for the, quote, foreseeable future, unquote. It has been an absolute pleasure to produce DPW events these past 4 years, their statement on social media read. Thank you to all the fans, wrestlers, and everyone behind the scenes that made this all possible. We are extremely proud of what we have accomplished, and we are excited to celebrate with a great anniversary event in December. Thank you for everything. It was additionally announced that the show will become a fundraiser to help families in the area. Jesus, man. Based out of North Carolina, the promotion opened back in 2021. Talent that have competed in their shows include Colby Carino, Tom Lawler, Mike Bailey, Jake Something, Amy Sakura, Konosuke Takeshita, the Grizzled Young Veterans, the Motor City Machine Guns, Mustafa Ali, Roderick Strong, Danny Luna, Hyan, Queen Aminata. Who else am I forgetting here? There's really a ton of great talent who worked there. You know, Calvin Tankman is a regular there. Grimes, what's his name? What's his name? Cameron Grimes, but shit, I can't remember his indie name. He works there too. Adam Priest. It was a ridiculous amount of talent that would just show up to these shows month after month. Trevor Lee, thank you. And yeah, look, I watched Deadlock and I enjoyed Deadlock because it was a fantastic indie promotion that understood how wrestling is, how it should go, and didn't try to be stuff that it's not, and kept it all very, very simple, all within a package of providing great professional wrestling in a great production. One of the trademarks that you will always hear when you talk to anyone who talks positively about Deadlock, and we will all say the same thing, the production value in Deadlock is second to none for an indie promotion. It looks heads and tails better than most of what you're watching on IWTV. It looks better than GCW, which is considered to be the big national independent promotion. It is such a fucking bummer. And they're coming off last month's show, the Super Battle was such a good show. And I was rubbing my hands together and I'm like, fuck yeah. And then we're getting into the Jake Something, his era as his second reign as DPW World Champion. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do it. I don't know if it's a world championship. I never remember. But, you know, as the top guy, like, this all rules. This is all great. Queen Aminata wins the championship for the women. I'm like, yes, this fucking rocks. And now she won't even be able to be. Anyway, the indies in the United States right now are not in a spectacular place. It's not a great environment right now. They're not thriving. It's very up and down, let's put it that way. You know, I know a lot of people love GCW. I liked GCW for a while, and then I started to see patterns, and I started to see things that I'm like, you know what? I'm not into this anymore. And you know, part of it is the production, which always feels very slapdash, which I don't understand. Why an indie promotion that considers itself to be like top tier would still come across looking the way it does and sounding the way it does. And look, Prestige is shutting down. Deadlock is shutting down. You know, there's still West Coast Pro that still has a high level indie matches. You know, I don't know, man. It's not, this is not a good sign for the independents. It really isn't, you know. I hope that there's nothing nefarious that is being led to them shutting down. I can understand that it's been particularly difficult. You know, the cost of traveling has been, the cost of traveling has been much less, much more significant. So, you know, there's probably a lot more expenses going into it. And, you know, you're bringing in some top name talent at the same time. You know, like we're joking about Newell and Alize, you know, having one last place to find bookings, but which is a funny joke. Don't get me wrong, but it is nonetheless like a place like Deadlock in the wrestling ecosystem it serves a fantastic purpose. It allows wrestlers from bigger promotions, you know, elsewhere to come in and do stuff that they can't necessarily do because they're not being booked or they're not being used a certain way on the shows, on their main promotion shows. Look at Roderick Strong. You know, Roderick Strong coming into DPW and kicking ass, and you're like, and then you look at him and like, why isn't AEW using him like this? You know, I've been saying the same thing about Queen Aminata for months, you know, and now like, and when you look at this, how fucked up the ecosystem in pro wrestling is, you know, we used to have a viable place like TNA where a lot of top TV talent would either, you know, let's say they get fired or they're winding down their career, they could go there and have like continue to make, you know, a nice little salary, continue to get TV exposure, stay in the conversation, stay in the limelight, you know. But now TNA is not that anymore. TNA is a branch of WWE where they just, you know, which is a playground for WWE's developmental now. That's essentially what it is. The NWA for a while served that purpose too, but now it's devolved into something so ridiculous and, you know, not fun. That's like I have nothing to bring forward here. Like it's not fun. You know, why would anyone want to go work for Billy Corgan's NWA after being on, you know, on Raw or SmackDown or Dynamite? You know, why would you want to do that? Then there's MLW, you know, for what it's worth, you know, it has that aura about it where it has a bit of an open door policy where they rotate through talent. They have some established people, but you can come in and do a few shots and then you move on to other places, but you don't even have a decent indie to go to now. You have nothing. You don't have a strongly produced, not embarrassing, independent promotion that you can go to continue to hone your craft, wrestle in front of decent crowds that also just happen to stream, so you can pick those up as well. You know, don't have to go to the Carolinas every time you want to watch some DPW, and that run every month. And you don't have to go across the country. You don't always have to be on the West Coast or whatever. I would not. I think this is significant. You know, Prestige, Deadlock shutting down. I think these are significant losses. And it sucks because if there was one promotion, I feel, that could use a bailout, right? That would warrant someone just swooping in to save it from from falling off a cliff. It would be Deadlock. It's a shame, man. It's an absolute crying shame, and it bothers me. And I don't know, man. U.S. Indies, they really ain't what they used to be, but I feel like this is maybe these two big high quality promotions shutting down. I think it's a significant problem. I think it's a significant and non-negligible problem that eventually we're not going to be able to ignore anymore. And it's going to impact quite possibly your favorite wrestling promotion, whatever it may be, in one form or another. And that about does it for another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Thank you all very much once again for listening. If you haven't already, the like, the review, the rating would be highly appreciated. Otherwise, in the meantime, look, I will be back we'll be back tomorrow, Thursday, with the AEW Dynamite review. Back then on Thursday evening as well for some live streaming over on YouTube. And over the weekend, my next edition of the review grab bag will also be out, featuring matches from Dragon Gate and CMLL, amongst others. So be sure to come in and check that out. Otherwise, we'll be back next week with another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. So thank you all very much for being here. Go watch some Randy Orton and get back to me, and I will see you next time.